Go ahead and perfect. Awesome. Well, hey everyone, and welcome to our donor workshop on how to give better, a guide to increasing your kingdom impact. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm the strategic initiative developer with The Cause. We get the pleasure of hosting over 100 partners in countries all over the world that are doing some awesome good. And so we put this workshop together specifically for you guys as donors and as people that are maybe in the missions world to try and understand like what does it look like to take the gifts that I'm already giving and maximize those, or what does it look like from the emotional and spiritual side to support people that are working around the world and make sure that they're as sustained as possible. So our hope here is that this starts to just generate some creative ideas for you on what it could look like to give in creative ways or new ways or ways that you are already giving that might be more tax friendly, that you can continue to be a part of that. So, just to give you a little look into our agenda here as we get going to set some good expectations for everybody. We'll start with kind of like what's the heart behind all of this? What's the heart of giving? What does it look like to give well and to give in alignment with your values and what God is calling you to specifically? So that's where we'll start just to lay a good groundwork of why does any of this even matter? We'll move on to some financial stuff, all the nitty-gritty, the what does it look like to do this in a tax-friendly way, and then finally get around to the emotional and spiritual support side of it, which we see these all as like we got feedback from people as you guys were signing up for this of who's interested in what, and we got some interest in all of these different categories. And so, just so you know, we'll cruise through that financial side of it with kind of a high level overview of a lot of things, and then anything that's personal or specific or things related to your specific financial situation or hopes for financial giving, we can dive into that on a personal side. What we've said and the way we've advertised it that we'll continue to hold to also is that this is not some big manipulated sales pitch for the cause. This is really intended to be a resource for you guys of how can you leverage your finances and your emotional and spiritual support that you have to offer towards wherever it is that you want to give, and whoever it is that you feel like you're being called to give towards. So that's really the hope and the heart out of this, and we hope that that is what continues to come through. So Morgan is going to kick us off with the heart of giving.
Yeah. There's this one point in 2020 where my husband Nathan and I were going for a walk, and as we were walking, I just was telling him, I don't think we're giving right. I don't think we're doing enough. And I can have this not enough mentality. And I'm like, it doesn't look like everyone else's stuff. It's just I don't know. We were doing all this other stuff, but at that moment, because we were doing all the other stuff, we couldn't quite figure out like, what is 10%? What is all these things? What does this look like? And I was having this big panic about it. And Nathan turned to me and said, Morgan, it's not about giving God 10%. It is about God owns 100% and we're just stewarding it. And for me, that changed everything. Like looking at that kind of New Testament like construct of, okay, God owns it all. How do we steward it? What are we doing with it? And so our mentality as we go into this, as we talk about it, is not is not like, okay, how do we parcel it out? And do we have to give this much to the church and this much? No, it's God owns it all. We're stewarding it. How do we get to do that? And when we look at it that way, it just gets so exciting. I get really I don't know if you guys do, and we've all probably done it in the past, even the whole like, hey, if you just give up your cup of coffee every day, then you can feed this orphan or do this thing. And that's not bad. But I feel like there's so much more. I mean, one, like, I'm always like, I don't drink a cup of coffee every day and pay money for that. Like, no way. But there's also the other side of, like, again, just God owns it all. And maybe you are treating someone to coffee and enjoying that coffee, and that's part of your ministry. And, you get to give in all these other ways too. So, when we look at this, we're looking at true kingdom generosity, where everything we own, everything we've been given, our time, our money, our talents, our very life, it's God's. And I love when the Bible talks about this. I want to introduce us with like two of my favorite scriptures on this. And the first is up here, and it says this: Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor. For everything in heaven and earth is yours. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. Wealth and honor come from you. And I love that. I love realizing again, everything is God's. We are just stewarding it. And then another one that is maybe a little bit more like common in this world is from Psalm 50, verses 10 through 12. And it's this: For every animal of the forest is mine, and the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know every bird in the mountains, and the insects in the fields are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine and all that is in it. And I feel like for a long time, as someone who leads organizations that are dependent on people like listening to God's call to give, I heard that verse in one way. But when I started to look at really how I'm called to steward, I started to feel it in such a different way, where it's like, okay, God, everything we have is yours. Our home, our food, anything in any account we have anywhere, our time, our energy, all of it, it's all yours. How are we going to use it for you, Lord? Another one of my favorite scriptures in the New Testament says it's where Paul says like I labor with all his energy. And I even look at that like our very energy belongs to God. And so as we're looking at this, one of my favorite concepts is the concept of currency. I don't think it's an accident that money is called currency because the definition of current is a body of water or air moving in a definite direction through a surrounding body of water or air where there is less movement. And finances create movement. They create kingdom advancement. They move things forward. What finances are meant to flow, currency is meant to move and flow and do things. And we get to have the currency that God's trusted us with at this point in our lives, whether it's a lot or a little or somewhere in between, we get to have it create movement for kingdom advancement. And we get to be part of God's redemptive plan. I'm so excited about what we're going to get to cover tonight and how we get to cover it. And I'm so glad y'all are here.
Awesome. Thank you, Morgan. Hey everybody, my name is Will, for those of you guys that I haven't met. And I'll be honest with you. I kind of have a bit of a reputation when it comes to spontaneity and off the cuff and leaving the script and all those sorts of things. And I think and the funny thing is that I'm the like stable by the book one in my marriage. So you can imagine what our home looks like when it comes to opportunities that open up. And so one of the cool things I want to walk you guys through tonight, we're going to take a couple minutes on this, is this idea of a giving mission statement. When Tara and I were getting married, and probably our first or second year of marriage, I had a guy sit me down that has never once reappeared in my life. I can't remember his name, nor could I probably ever pick him out of a lineup. But he gave me some of the greatest godly counsel I've ever given. And he shared with me this idea about decision pillars. Okay. He could see straight through Tara and I and knew that we were the type that were just gonna be down for anything. Our answer is always yes. Very rarely do we ever ask any follow-up questions. We're in. And so he could see where our marriage was headed and kind of coached us through this idea of decision pillars. So Tara and I, and just so you guys can kind of, so I have a concrete example to share, I'll share with you what kind of Tara and I came up with. Our heart was international, so we wanted to live or be close and tied to the international mission field. We wanted to do all of our stuff through local leaders, so not Tara and I launching things, but getting local leaders in place. We wanted to be connected to the local church, so whatever the expression of that church was in that country, in that city, we're not bringing our stuff. We want the church is already there. And then lastly, we wanted to have access to our home, friends, and family. We're very close to our family, and being halfway around the world with little access to them was not appealing to us. So these were decision pillars that we kind of set up and said these are things that are important to us. And what happened is anytime an opportunity came up, we could measure this opportunity up with our pillars. Did it fit or did it not? And if it fit, hey, we got all the freedom in the world. Let's go. Let's go. Let's be our spontaneous selves and show up. If it didn't fit, we couldn't even begin to process the opportunity. We had to process the pillar and ask if God was wanting us to change that pillar. So again, another big example was my son was born. My first son was born in 2013. We were living on the other side of the planet in the Philippines, and I had an opportunity to continue our ministry there. Um, And I had an opportunity to take on a new ministry in the Dominican Republic. So when I look at that fourth pillar of being tied to my home friends and family, it wasn't happening in the Philippines. So we began to process that other pillar. So it was a really cool opportunity for us. What I want to do with you guys is kind of what does this look like on the giving front? And so the first thing that I want to take note, and I want all you spontaneous givers that want to be free, there is a huge biblical proponent of giving to those that are hungry, of clothing those that are naked, of visiting those that are poor, or in prison. This is in Matthew 25, where when we see a need and our heart is touched, we meet it. But when it comes to the day in, day out of how we're going to steward our funds and what we're going to do, putting some vision behind it can be critical. So I wrote a couple of these things up there. These are examples from some buddies of mine that I've been able to talk and share with. But I was able to. I actually just met with the guy on the first one this week and told him I was going to give him a shout out. But here, this is one he said. I know that education can change generational lines, but my campus ministry changed my eternity. I want to give to ministries that serve students in their education. It was a great thing for him to share with me because it goes, okay, well, now I know you want to be on campuses, you need to be universities, you need to be in scholarships, you need to be in campus ministries type of places. And it was a beautiful way to kind of help him steward some of his resources, at least for that season of life. And so we want to help you guys walk through this. I'll read these other two just because they're fun. I know you guys can read, they're up there, but this is our second one. I believe that we should fight for the vulnerable and bring justice and Jesus to those that have been exploited or taken advantage of. We have some incredible, incredible missionary partners that are serving some of the most vulnerable when it comes to exploitation and sex trafficking. And we have some incredible ministries doing great things. And this is a really worthy thing to give to. It can also be a lifetime commitment for some of these people. And so they need those good, consistent people that are not just going to give them a donation once a year, but can also come alongside them for their day in, day out of their work in their ministry. And this one's fun because we have a lot of people that have that evangelical heart, but we're the hands and feet of the gospel, and I desire to give to those that are taking the message of Jesus to every corner of the world, specifically through evangelism. We don't tell our partners they have to be on the street corners with megaphones. We do have some of those guys, and they're incredible, and they're gifted and charismatic, and I love watching them work. But not all of our ministries are as directly out there and evangelical. And so things that get you excited get us excited. And generosity tends to lead towards greater generosity. And yeah, let me go and read this quote too. This is a Frederick Buechner quote. Morgan's quoted this with us tons of times, but the place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and world's deep hunger meet. There are more, I guess, less politically correct ways of saying this statement. So I'll just say it at this: if there's something that just gets under your skin that is not right, that you cannot go to sleep knowing it exists, that's probably something God's put you on this earth to help fight. And so we love righteous anger when it comes to that sort of stuff. And we want to partner you with people that are fighting directly some of these social injustices. So we can head on to that next slide now. And I'll kind of walk you through what we're going to do here. Cool. All right. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to do something that you don't do normally at workshops, and I'm going to mute everybody for 2 minutes. We're going to take 2 minutes right now in silence. And I would love if you have your phone or a pad and paper or something. And I would just like you to write down maybe some of those words that may pop up, some of those things that you think about and you get really excited about. Think education, feeding, battling poverty, visiting prisoners, helping out those that have been exploited or taken advantage. Think of things like this, and I would love for you just to sit in silence 1 minute and ask for these 2 minutes and ask God, what are those things that I am either extremely passionate about or extremely fired up about, and I have to do something? So can we do that? I'm going to set us, I'll even mute myself. And again, here's some ideas. Here's a thought on just some questions you can ask yourself if you stall out. You can read those questions to yourself. But we're going to take 2 minutes right now of silence. All right, that may have been a little bit quicker than 2 minutes, but I'd love for you guys to sit in this, write these questions down if you need to, some things that you could be processing through on this point. Um, and I'm going to tell you these two stories. And sorry, Elizabeth, I got this one good. I wanted to make sure. So I'm going to put these images up while I tell you two quick stories to kind of wrap up our time here. When we were living in Phoenix, I got to meet with a lot of young families. Our kids were in school, so birthdays and play dates and sporting events and all sort of stuff. And so I got to rub shoulders with some of these dads. We were all there for the same reason. Most of us were against the wall. Our wives are typically the social ones, and we got to be the ones to go take the kids. So, what do you talk about in those moments? And of course, me, I have no shallow end. So I don't know small talk. I remember meeting with a couple of dads in these areas that were buddies of mine, just kind of jumping straight into it. What do you want your kids to know about you? What do you want your family legacy to be? What do you want to pass on to your children? And it was really cool to watch because as I began to ask this more and more of other dads, I noticed that generosity always popped up. And so almost every time when the word generosity would pop up, I'd ask these guys, okay, so what are you doing to help breed generosity in your family? I'm genuinely curious because it's on my list too. And so then I never want to convict someone in the moment. That's the Holy Spirit's job, not mine. But I could see kind of stumbling to find the words and stumbling to find the answers. So the first time I met with a buddy of mine, God gave me this incredible question, and He said, "Why don't you sit down and do what we just did, which is write some of those words down, write some of those things down that fire you up, and then I'd like you to tell me some of those words." And then what I want to do is I want to give you 4 or 5 of our missionary partners. I want to I just that fit that sort of stuff. I want to give you, their partner page, their bio, what they do, all that sort of stuff. I want to give it to you. And then I don't want you to make a decision. I want you to sit down at the dinner table with your children and say, we have whatever it is, let's say $200 a month that we want to give. We have $200 a month that we want to give and be generous with outside of our normal giving tithe, whatever that method is, and let your kids participate in it. Let them decide what pot to put it in each month. Let them decide what to go with. And it was fat. These two guys, they're both. I mean, their kids were in my kids' class, and so Micah came back to me and shocked me because he told me, I want to be there for kids that don't have the same privileges my kids have. So when he heard about the war in Ukraine and specifically what Alina was doing to help, to go to war, not to fight it, but to make sure that the kids were taken care of when they were pushed towards the border. It just totally touched him, and his whole family wanted to participate in it. And so Brandon was a very similar way where adoption and foster care was a big thing of theirs. But they've got 3 kids of their own right now and building that. And so they wanted to eventually get there to be able to foster and adopt, but they weren't there yet. But so when they met about some of these other people that were doing some advocacy, they started giving to them. Let's give to them now until we're ready to bring our next kids home. And it was really cool to walk through those with them and to help them kind of form a giving statement. And I mean, it just so happened to be that they used some of our partners. We've got 104 partners in what we said 27, 26 different countries right now. I mean, here are some of them. You see them on this page. They're doing great things. We got a great group of people to choose from. And so it's easy for us to champion our partners, but there are more great people doing great things. So if you guys need help giving statements, if you want to talk more, I'd love to. It's something I'm really passionate about. It helps guide my decisions and my directions. So thank you guys for jumping in on this. I'm going to pass this off to our next thing. So Morgan, Jen, you got it.
There we go. Sorry about that. So I'm going to start us off with a simple one is that maybe some of you don't know. You can donate stock to your favorite nonprofit organization, which there's benefits. Not only do you get a donation receipt with that's tax deductible on your taxes, but you also get to avoid capital gains tax because the money's not going into your hands, it's going directly to the nonprofit. You do not have to claim the capital gains for any increase in value that that stock has from when you originally purchased it. And so you can gather your stock information, talk to your investment advisor. And then you also get information about the nonprofit that you're going to be giving to. So their name, their tax ID number, and then some other information, and then fill out a form. And then ideally, you would also contact the nonprofit to let them know a heads up that it's coming in case there's any questions that might come up. If I've noticed that some cases we don't get all of the information of the donor. So just make sure that if you decide to do this, that you do notify the nonprofit as well. And then once the stock is received and processed, you get a donation receipt from the nonprofit that you gave to. It's very simple and a very high bang for your buck. You get to give to somebody and you get to save money on your taxes. So it's great. And the
Yeah.
next one is Morgan.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, another great option for donating if you are doing cryptocurrency or anything in the crypto world is you can donate crypto. And we have ways right now that you can donate crypto directly so you avoid any capital gains tax. There's an organization called every.org that allows for that, and they do it basically for a tip. So you can decide what you're tipping that organization or what you're helping to give them. But what they do is they liquidate it, make it possible for the nonprofit to then receive the funds from the crypto. And because it goes directly from the crypto to the nonprofit, there's no capital gains tax or anything on it. And it looks like those laws could potentially change this year on crypto currencies and capital gains taxes. But at least for now, it's a really great, easy way to do that so that you can get those funds directly to the people who need them.
Okay. And then you can also donate through your IRA, your individual retirement account. And if you are 73 plus, you can do, well, you're required, you have a required minimum distribution. And in fact, even some inherited IRAs, you'll have a required minimum distribution. And those funds are taxable income. And one way to shelter that is if you are 70 and a half or greater in years, you can do a qualified charitable distribution, and you would contact your financial advisor and set it up. And you can do actually quite a large amount of money. It's $108,000 per year is allowable for an individual. And if you're married and filing jointly, it's double that. So if you have that much in required minimum distribution, if you're that blessed with that large of an account, then you can really give a lot per year through the charitable, qualified charitable distribution. And you can do it with traditional IRAs, inherited IRAs, inactive SEP IRAs, and inactive simple IRAs, but you cannot with Roth IRAs or 401k, 403b, or active SEP or active simple IRA plans. But if that's something that you're interested in, definitely contact your financial advisor about getting that, because that also can shelter your income. Anything that you give through the qualified charitable distribution will not be taxed. So it reduces your taxable income. Even though you are required to remove it from your IRA, it will not count against you in your tax return.
Thanks, Ken. That's such good information. Another great thing to get set up is a donor advised fund. There's different organizations that do this. One of the ones that we've worked with a lot is the National Christian Foundation. And what these organizations do is they basically are a private account that's created to manage and distribute your charitable donations. So, I might set up an account with I'll use National Christian Foundation, set up an account with them, and then I can put my funds in. And the year that I put my funds in, it counts on my taxes. So if you have like a year where you make a lot of money, a year where you actually need to get some money off your taxes, you can put those in. But then it goes into an account where that account earns interest, and you have all the time you want to be able to give it out. One really important thing to double check when you do this with an organization is what you're allowed to give it out to. Most organizations will only give it out to a 501c3. And then some organizations have even stricter requirements. So you want to know, hey, can I give this to anyone who I want to give it to? What do those requirements look like before getting into it? But it's a really great way to house funds that you know you're going to be giving to let them appreciate, let them gain interest, and then be able to give them when you're ready to give.
And you can donate vehicles. You can actually donate cars, trucks, RVs, snowmobiles, trailers, and certain boats and planes if you have them. We have one website, Cars for Charity. It's cardonationwizard.com/cars dash for dash charity. And through that organization, you can actually pick the charity that you want your donation to go towards. They most of them will actually come and pick up your vehicle free of charge, and then they sell your vehicle. And then anything that's like it's stating here, if it's sold for over $500, then you get a written notice, a written receipt saying how much that was, and that's your tax tax deductible donation receipt. Or if it's under the 500, it's whatever the face value is of what they sold it for. Um, but they do pick up and they do accept vehicles that aren't even operating. So if you have a vehicle or a boat or a plane that you want to get off your hands and not even have to move it, they can do that for you. There's other donation sites that give directly to certain other organizations, but this one we found is really great because you can pick your own charity to give directly to.
Another great thing to think about as you're looking at donating to different things is what processing costs are. So most of the time for most different accounts, if you use an American Express, it's about 3.5%. Most like other cards are 2.2-ish%. And then if you do a check or have your bank send a check, oftentimes that percent is zero. So if you're making a larger donation, it's great to see if you can have your bank do a direct check or you can send that. But at the same time, if you're signing up for a monthly donation, sign up, put your card on because a monthly donation it's better just to have it go in and better to get it. But there are even ways to sign up for monthly donations through your bank if you want to be really sophisticated about it. A lot of different websites and different things that process donations offer like a little tip button to, hey, cover 5% of this. 5%, 10% of this donation to help cover those credit card processing costs. And then just the cost, it costs money just to keep a nonprofit running, keep everything filed, keep everything going. So they can offer that to help cover those things. We always want to encourage you, like think about those things and work them into your donation. And if that's not on the website, just consider adding a little bit extra to help process those costs if you're giving in that way.
Yeah, and there's always employer matching. It is surprising how many companies do offer employer matching. And as I was doing some research on it, there are companies that do a 1-to-1 match, but there are companies that do a 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and even a 4-to-1 match. So you can quadruple or quintuple your donation by having an employer match, depending on who your employer is. I mean, even for Pepsi, they're one that does do matching, and they do 1-to-1 for employees. They do 2-to-1 for board members. And then they have a minimum of a $25 donation, but a maximum of a $10,000 donation that they will match. So the first step is asking your employer, but if you can't, or it's just easier to go online, there is charitynavigator.org is a wonderful resource to go on, and they give you all the information about whether the company does matching, what the matching looks like, if it's for full-time, part-time, retired from that company, and what nonprofits they will approve that are eligible for their matching, and then all the details of their programs, and usually a link to their site to go ahead and get signed up to start doing the matching. So it's also a really great way to multiply your donation if your employer offers that option, obviously.
Yeah, and we always want to encourage you to talk to a financial advisor if you have one. find the right like kingdom-minded people to help you do these things and do them really well. And again, this isn't all the details, but we wanted to get it started with just some more of the information, things that are really good to be aware of in this. And so, are we going to talk about micro events right now? So,
Yeah, I think just a quick note on what we were just talking about there too. We obviously went through a lot of information at a very, very high level. But after this workshop, we can send out a PDF that has all of this with clickable links that have a very well outlined, like some of them legal, like kind of what is all the tax implications of this kind of stuff look like if you have any interest in getting to know these more. Or we're always happy to talk through what that looks like in your personal situation as well. So
yeah, great. And then the last one on here that we want to talk about is micro events. But Will has an amazing story around this that I'm really excited for him to share and like what's possible when we start to kind of think outside the box with how to give.
Yeah, thanks. So I have this term now. Whoever they are, has decided there is now a term for these little mini gatherings for fundraisers, and we call them micro events. This isn't a term we made up, but it's a really cool term for us to use because one of the things that we teach a lot of our partners and a lot of people that are raising funds is yes, the ask, which is probably the hardest thing ever for these people. No one likes it. Like I'm just going to go ahead and I'll be very honest with this. Fundraising is not easy, especially when you're fundraising for yourself. So let me say that on behalf of our partners. But an even more awkward question can sometimes be, can you connect me with your friends? I mean, we're not, selling Sally Mae or Amway products here, but it is one of those things where it's like, this actually helps the mission go farther. And so one of the stories that I'll share personally, when we were in the Dominican Republic and we had a sponsor team. We had about 15 people that donated directly to our ministry on a monthly basis and more that gave one time. And so I asked all of our donors that were on a monthly recurring basis to consider taking 1 month off. And what I wanted them to do was to take that 1 month donation, whatever they were giving, and gather some of their friends or like-minded, like-hearted, church-going friends, small group, whatever it was, and to host some sort of little mini gathering. So I had one donor take me up on it. The rest of them said, "Oh, that's nice. We'll just give a little more." And I was like, "Oh, that's fine, but I really want to test this idea." So I had one donor take me up on it. And we planned a time where I was going to be in town in Tuscaloosa visiting some family. And they said, "Hey, here's what we want to do. I'm going to go ahead and do the checkout at the store. Can you go pick up all the stuff, the snacks and the little things that they were going to serve to their friends? Can you pick it up and go to our house and make it nice and pretty?" And so like, "Yeah, sure, that's great. That's obviously my specialty is setting up a party." And so I did the best I could. And they showed up. It's one of the funniest stories because they were the last person to their own party. This is just the friend that they are. They were the last person to their own party. They gathered about 5 or 6 couples together. And so I knew a couple of them. None of them were donating to us at the time. And so I was able to make a quick little presentation of here's who we are, here's what we're doing. And that evening, I think I remember the numbers 'cause I looked at it recently. We had 5 couples there. 3 of them became monthly donors for our ministry. All of them gave a one-time donation that night. And it was one of the most fruitful fundraisers I've ever had. And so this is one of the things we've been sharing and teaching with our partners are what are some of these little mini events, micro events that your donor base could champion for you. Maybe people that don't feel like they can give enough. They'd love to give more, but they can't get enough yet. How can we encourage at least their connections or their friends or let them champion you in some way? So if you guys have a heart to use the resource of your relationships, these are incredible people doing incredible things. And it's donors, it's not all on you to fund them. We never want guilt and shame to be into anything. And I know you wish all of our partners were fully funded and that you could take care of it, but truth is we can't do that. So one thing we can do actively, on top of all the things that Jen and Morgan just walked through, some unique ways of giving, is share the story. Gather people together. We have some other partners doing some great micro events. We had one of our donors host a women's retreat and sponsor 5 partners from the cause. We have some guys that put together a sporting event every year that tend to pick one partner from the cause to do it for. We've had other people do small gatherings, teas, or afternoon or brunches or whatever it is that you do for fun. I hear that Leticia may even do a fantasy football sponsor this year with her Intense Fantasy Football League. We'll see. I don't know if I'm speaking that into existence, but there are really cool ways to take what you guys are already doing and interject just a little bit of generosity into it on top of that. So if you have any questions, let us know. So I could talk about that one for a while, but let's transition now to our emotional and spiritual support side. Um, one of the things that we've done at the cause is we've kind of pivoted our mission statements, where we used to say we provided emotional and spiritual care for all of our partners. We've noticed now that that is an unreachable goal for us. As we grow, we can't sustain it. So one of the ways we have to do it is rather than saying that we provide a spiritual and emotional care for all of our partners, we're saying we're creating and building a community that takes care of that sort of stuff. So it's our partners taking care of our partners. It's our donors taking care of their partners. It's everyone kind of surrounding these people that are on the front lines of missions to help provide some of that emotional and spiritual support. So as I was kind of researching for this, there's some pretty gruesome numbers out there. And I don't want to go the gruesome route. I don't want to go the guilt route. I don't want to go the shame route. But I will tell you that the numbers are not pretty. Over half of missionaries are done and off the field within their first couple of years. It cost an exorbitant amount to launch a ministry, to launch a missionary, specifically to a foreign country. And it's not always the most ideal return on investment. And so we want to launch, we want to be very careful with who we're sending out. We have a couple we're sending out to Japan by the end of the year. They have taken 2 years with us before launching, to go slow, to work through their career they're in right now. And so these are things that we want to be very mindful of and weary of, that we don't want to continue these trends and these numbers. So I sent some questions out to a few of our partners, and for those of you guys that don't know, yeah, our whole staff is on here, so I'm going to specifically highlight Jenna and Elizabeth real quick because Jenna and Elizabeth also started as partners with us. They were partners in our missionary field, still are. You're not going anywhere, right? Good. Thank you. They have a partnership and a mission and a ministry that's apart from the cause that they have brought under the cause umbrella. And they also are creating some of the administrative systems and technology that we're using to help better our partnership. So they come from a really unique perspective because Elizabeth was partners for several years with us before coming on staff. And so I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to bring Elizabeth on here. Don't worry, I'll tell you before we do this. But I sent a couple of questions to our partners. So here, let me start with this one because I want to celebrate. This is really cool. So I asked a couple of our partners if they had any sort of like widow's mite type of testimony. Is there something that you just want to celebrate from your partners that you know is not going to break your budget? It's not going to break the heavens open, but you see it and you know it's an act of faith. So I'm going to tell you two quick stories, and these are their words. Um, so let's see. Over the years, I've had many widow's mite moments from various donors. One specific story is for many years, I have been supported by a family who faithfully gives $10 every month in support of my ministry. I can't even begin to tell you how much their gift has meant to me, especially knowing all that their family has walked through financially over these many years. It's honestly humbling for me to see their faithfulness in my life. And more than that, their faithfulness to the Lord, and then to hear testimony after testimony from them of how the Lord has always looked out for them and cared for them through each and every struggle they have faced. Just as the Lord has continued to faithfully provide for me, He is faithfully providing for them, and it's a beautiful journey to get to hear about and see. And I feel that it is true of every supporter I have. While the Lord has always spoken to me that He will always care for the things I need, He's also spoken time and time again of how His care extends to all of His children, and I get to see that play out all the time. And again, as I interact with my supporters, as I hear their stories of the Lord's faithfulness too, this is such a gift. This is from Christy Michael, who's in Thailand. It's really cool to celebrate that. And another one from Stacy. I got from Stacy Fields in El Salvador. This was a really cool one. But one of my students from my youth group that we pastored while we were in the U.S. has just started supporting us monthly. I cry typing this because she is a senior in high school and could easily use that money for herself. Such a selfless act for a teenager to invest in our family and our ministry. We also have several widows that support us, and I know that it's a sacrifice for them. Along the same line, we have good friends who have just gone through an earth-shaking trial in their family. They have massive medical bills and a long road ahead of them. I assumed they'd cut off their support, as they were all also actively raising support to cover their needs. But they have been so faithful and giving and even continue to reach out and pray for us. So I want to celebrate some of these moments because before we even get to the large numbers, before we even start talking about some of these bigger gifts next, like this is oftentimes some of the most encouraging things when we see your name on a donor list. When we see you show up, it's like your name shows first and the dollar amount comes later. But we're just it's such a huge emotional support to be able to see someone's name pop up on a list that gave whatever amount they gave. And we want to celebrate that. Um, yeah, this is a really cool story. So, Elizabeth, I'm gonna pass a question to you real quick, and I asked this of a couple of our people as well.
Mhm.
But with your history in this, and you being a partner also, what's something a supporter did other than give funds that made you feel truly supported?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good question because like you're saying, like there's so much to a wow, you're here with me and you hear me and you care about what I'm doing, not just from a financial spot, but from a heart spot too. And I think that means so much. I mean, I think there's things that are feel really small from the donor side that actually end up translating to a lot from the person that's working in ministry side, from like responding to newsletters. Like a little, these people are spending, I don't hours, usually a month, trying to communicate their story that they're so excited about and ready to celebrate, and pouring their heart and excitement out in this newsletter and sending it to maybe, I don't know, between 20 and 200 people probably, and often get zero responses. More often than not, I'll say most letters get zero responses. And so even a quick like, that's so cool praying for you, like actually really goes a long way. So that's something that feels really small and obtainable for people to be able to respond to things that are already coming to your inbox. I think too, just like anyone that's on the field that's working in the missions space are people too, right? And so getting the question of like, how are you? And not because I'm your professional donor looking here to check in, but like because we have started this financial side of our relationship from a relationship, like how are you doing as a human? Questions like that, again, feel really small, but as I talk to more people in this space and hear stories of more people in this space, it's really rare. And so if you're the person who's responding to the newsletter, or you're the person who's reaching out and saying, how are you? You might be the only one. So I think that's not to put a weight on you, that isn't to put on you, but is an encouragement of like it actually really matters.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, I want to read this from Kathy Anjum, who's one of our missionaries in Pakistan right now. And she gives a shout out to her church, and I'll talk about this in a second. Wooddale Church Missions Department is probably the best I've ever experienced in my support. She's been on the field for well over 20 years. They regularly follow up asking for prayer requests, have dedicated prayer teams for their global partners, host missionary weekends and breakfast banquets twice a year for all their global partners who are in town, send everyone a Christmas present, and the church mission staff meets with us personally as well whenever we want. And so here's the cool thing. Um, I don't think that all those people Kathy is talking about donate to her. I believe that this is a church that donates to her and supports her. And then there are people, there are members within the church that then come and do these prayer breakfasts. They do these prayer times. They sit, they help create what's the Christmas present going to be. They make sure that these people are reached out to and messages are sent. And so I always want to encourage this creative support side, that it's not always financial, but it's the resources that you have. And so here we have a great example of a church that is a whole team is caring for Kathy. And another really cool thing is that Wooddale's actually sent us a couple of more missionaries because of how we also care for the partners on this side as well. And so it's really cool to see something like that and to hear that. And Rachel Palmberg in Eswatini sends me this message too. I always feel deeply supported and encouraged when donors advocate for our ministry in other spaces. We currently have a few donors organizing a golf tournament fundraiser in this September, which is super exciting. They're taking full ownership of organizing and coordinating everything, so my personal involvement is minimal, which is such a relief, especially living outside the US. So here's this is probably, outside the realm of a micro event. Whenever you start talking about a sporting tournament, it's a little bit bigger. But how cool these people are gathering together to kind of create some sort of advocacy space for Rachel, that she's not having to spearhead, she's not having to fly in for, she's not having to stop everything she's doing in Eswatini to come. It's a really cool space to be in. So I asked, I'll no, Elizabeth, I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna come back to you on this next one. Um, what's something a supporter has said that you really needed to hear?
hmm Yeah, I this is actually a specific one. I remember having a conversation with someone in the conversation of like, hey, thanks for supporting me for this past year. Are you interested in continuing this onward for the next upcoming year? And he said, Elizabeth, you're a good investment. Like, I trust you, and wherever God is calling you, I trust you to continue moving in that faithfully and confidently. Like I see the fruit of your life. And so that's one that I again, I've heard all these stories from people that have raised support either from a personal side or from a like organizational side. And when there's a personal motivation behind it, there can often be a sense of insecurity or a sense of like, man, I hope I'm walking in the right direction. I hope people care about this in the same way that I do, and I hope they're as excited about this thing that God's put on my heart. And so to hear that from a donor and someone who gets what I'm doing and understands it and could reiterate it to someone else, and I could say confidently, like, that's actually what is happening with your support here. Yes, you're correct. That means a ton to me. And then for them to come back and say also, I trust that you're doing what God has called you to, and like be free to know that this is something that I'm excited about being a part of. That excitement from them makes me more excited about the vision that's God has given me as well.
Mm. Thanks, Elizabeth. Good. It's like you practice these. Just kidding.
I did an excellent.
I love, I love it. That's what you and I can do all together. I got two
That's
questions.
just hard, yeah.
Yeah, I have two questions left. The first I'm gonna throw to our external partners, but I asked them about their trips home. When they come back to the US, when they come back to their home church, when they come back to their family, what's it like? And so I'm not going to use any direct quotes here, but here's what I will say. First off, it's not vacation. It's not time off. It's not a time to rest. I know a lot of people like to give that space for their missionaries, but this time home can oftentimes be the most fruitful time for their next 12 to 18 months of ministry. And so they want to meet and connect and share, and not always about financial ask, but about everything that's coming up. And so to be able to have people that can, one of our partners shared about that she has a friend that always takes her shopping to update whatever she may need or what the kids may need. Someone else mentioned that her whole supporter base knows how she is in the great outdoors, and so none of them meet with her in a coffee shop or a restaurant. They meet with her on a trail. A hiking trail. So she knows those are her people. When they don't say, "Hey, let's meet at Starbucks," but they say, "Hey, let's go meet at the local trailhead and let's go walk for an hour." So little things like this of showing that you know your partner, you know your missionary support, or at least you're trying to, and creating space for them, and then hopefully set them up. One of the most frustrating things can be when a missionary or sends out their dates and shares with everyone and says, "I'm coming here at this time." And if they don't do it, let me know, because they should be letting you know. But if they share these dates that they're coming and this is their plan and this is their heart, and they get here and it's just crickets. There's nothing on the calendar. There's no one to meet with. It can feel like a wasted trip home. And so I want to encourage you guys, not every encounter needs to be a fundraising encounter. I tell our partners the same exact thing. Not every encounter needs to end with an ask or a donation. You're always going to have needs. You're always going to have these things going up. You need to connect with people when you're face to face. And that connection can look different based off every relationship. And so this is that emotional and spiritual care. We see a lot of people that are sticking on the field. One of the things that you'll see in our annual report that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks is that we went through some pretty wild things this past year, and none of our partners packed it up. None of our partners went home. COVID was another season of times where a lot of people never went back onto the field again. We have a lot of our partners that never left, and we were able to walk alongside with them and give them a safe spot to keep going. And we start every partnership with this heart of we want you to be doing this as long as humanly possible. And the two main reasons that people tend to pack up and go home is interpersonal conflict with other believers, typically churches, donors, whatever it is, and a lack of funds. And so the two things that we really want to combat on this is we want to give people space to feel seen and welcomed and taken care of, which we know we as the cause can't shoulder solely. And two, we want to make sure our partners are financially stable to continue the work that they're in. And so this is our big heart. This is why we're doing this workshop today. So I would encourage you guys. We talked about the giving statement. Now I'll talk to you about like how can we take care of the people that you're supporting and you're seeking out for. So Morgan, it's you. Bring us home.
Got it. And this was one last thing that was really kind of important as we were covering this is what do you do if you want to stop giving? Like Elizabeth, can I ask you on this one? If someone wants to stop giving to you to their ministry, how do you prefer that they do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a piece that's a funky side of relationship a lot of times, and people can just get kind of weird around finances at times. And so even if we come away from this workshop saying like we're committing to being the people who aren't going to get weird about this, like we're just going to be clear, and to be clear is to be kind. And so we're going to be kind to the people that we're partnering with in ministry. And for this looks like different things to different people, right? But especially if you're on some sort of recurring schedule, giving any sort of advance notice is so huge to people. This is their salaries. This is what they're living off of, or this is what's feeding the kids in their community. And so as much as possible, this is often something that started from relationship. And so let the ending of this financial side of your relationship still continue the relationship that you have with this person. That know that there's something that was built there beforehand, and there gets to be something that remains afterwards, even if you have to stop giving for whatever reason, whether it's financial or you're just readjusting or whatever it might be. So just I think as much clarity, as much communication, as much like I'm deciding to be the person that's not awkward in this and just saying the thing, whatever it looks like to say the thing, and to be honest in the midst of that, I think is really big and is a really cool way to respect the people that are you're on their support team. So
Yeah, I love that, Elizabeth. And I know for me, I've been raising support in different ways for different things on and off for 20 years.
mhm.
And there's so much people come on for seasons, they come off for seasons. To me, I'm like, I want you giving where the Lord has called you to give. Because if you're giving to me and God has actually moved the ball and calling you to give somewhere else, I want you giving there. And I trust that God has other people he's going to call to give to what I'm doing or to the cause or to, different people. So, I think it's so important because we're all just following what God's calling us to do. And this last one is a quote from a survey on cross-cultural workers and what they're dealing with. I just really liked this as a way to just begin to think around, okay, God, what's one little thing I can do to show people that we love them, that we support them, that we care. This was the quote: "We feel beloved yet forgotten, supported yet lonely, attached but disconnected, spiritual but parched." And I think the positive part of that, though, is when someone is parched, like a little sip of water goes a long way. I've been writing newsletters for years, and I cannot tell you what a 2 cents response does in my heart. when someone just goes, wow, I see this. Wow, thank you for sharing that story. Wow, Morgan, you're a great writer. And I'm like, ah, I'm so excited. So I think it just means a lot. Like, and it doesn't have to be a lot to mean a lot. A donation doesn't have to be huge to be really valuable. And as we just end this time, one of the, I want to come back to that point, the main point of generosity versus stewardship. Yes, it's generosity, but the bigger picture of our generosity is stewardship. We're stewarding everything we have, and we get to do it. We get to build into the kingdom with it. We get to be really intentional and really wise in how we do it. But it's a privilege. I always I love one of my favorite things is when someone asks for, I love when youth ask for a mission trip they're going on because that's where God changed my life. Was mission trips I did when I was in junior high and high school. And every time I get to talk, every time I get to talk to one of them, I tell them, like, go out, make your ask because we get to partner. It's like our gift to get to partner with you in this. And at the end of the day, it's so important, I think, for all of us to find what is our cause? What are we most passionate about? What are the things that God's calling us to affect, to use our currency to create kingdom movement in? And God is working in so many beautiful ways. There's amazing organizations, amazing people. I look at all of our partners serving in all these different ways, and I go, wow, like there's so many different ways, and there's so many ways outside of our organization too. So, we're so excited about what God's doing. I want to thank you guys for this time. I also want to really thank like Elizabeth was the key person in this, and thank you for putting this together for all you did behind the scenes to make this all happen. And thank you for everyone on our team for being here and doing this. Thank you guys all for coming. We're just so excited about it. And now I think we're going to open it up a little bit, Elizabeth.
Yeah, we'll open up for some questions here. Will, if you want to stop the recording.